Well, hello, and welcome back to the next in our little series of short videos thinking through our anxieties and some of the things, some of the fears that we have that have been exacerbated by COVID-19 and the coronavirus crisis generally. If you've watched the other two or three so far, Duncan's helped us think about our anxieties and health and our families. And today we're going to think about our anxieties about money. As we've been saying all the way through, these fears, these anxieties that we have, they've always been there, but COVID-19 will have brought them into sharper focus, perhaps exacerbated them because of all that's been going on. And that's definitely true with money. Money is always something that weighs on our minds, but in light of COVID-19 and all of the devastating impact that that's had on the British economy, the world economy, no doubt we'll be worrying about money, thinking about money, perhaps in a way that we never really had to before. Some of us with jobs that felt very secure now feeling a lot less secure. Others of us may already have been furloughed, may have taken pay cuts, reduced hours, maybe even lost our jobs, or anticipating some of those things realistically a real chance of happening in the next few weeks. And maybe for self-employed, the work's dried up already, or we simply can't do it at all because of lockdown. And so for many of us, perhaps for the first time, there's a real concern about, well, am I going to be able to put food on the table? Am I going to pay the rent, pay the mortgage, keep a roof over my head and the heads of my families? Now, these are real concerns, and COVID-19 has undoubtedly exacerbated them. And when we're worrying about money, it goes without saying, really, we're not worrying about the money itself. We're worrying about the things that money buys us that give us security. So particularly things like food, things like shelter, having a car so we can get to work, clothes for our kids, all the rest of it. Things that give us security, that feeling, that sense that we'll be okay, we'll be safe, we've got what we need to survive, our family will get through this. Money buys us that, or so we think. The interesting thing about this crisis generally is that actually it's shaken not just our trust in money, but it's shaken our implicit trust in some of those things that money buys us that maybe we'd never thought were as fragile as they really were. So with the scenes of panic buying and going to the shops and finding that we're not able to buy a lot of the things that we're accustomed to being able to find in the shops, even staples like flour, suddenly we're faced with the reality that actually our fragile sense of security is based on some really quite shaky and unstable things. Maybe for the first time we're realizing that actually security, the security that we long for, that we think we had, is a bit of an illusion. It's not really something that we can grasp. And actually no amount of money can buy us security in this world. So that the tech billionaires who are buying up land in Australia with private airstrips so they can escape it all if it all goes downhill from here, or the survivalists in America with their bunkers stocked up with dry goods and weaponry, none of those people, and no amount of money can buy security. It can be stripped away in an instant, as we've seen. And when we come to the teaching of Jesus, as we must, I think he knows that. So in the Sermon on the Mount, his famous words confronting this issue of money and anxiety head on, what he says is this. He says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear." Now when we hear those words, perhaps initially we think, well, they sound a bit unrealistic, they sound a bit trite. Is Jesus a bit out of touch there? Why is he telling us not to worry? Surely if there's anything we should worry about, it's our food and clothing. Jesus is talking to people in first century Israel who lived a lot more of a hand-to-mouth existence than we've ever had to. He's talking to his disciples who'd left everything, they left their jobs, their families to follow him. And so he's talking to people who had just as much, if not even more, reason to worry about those things than we do. So he's not being out of touch. But what he is recognising is that actually those things cannot secure our lives in the way that we think they can. Actually, there is a different kind of security. There's another kind of security, a greater security that money can't buy, but that can be obtained, can be achieved. And that's why Jesus goes on a little bit later in that passage to say, don't worry about food, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. See, there is another kingdom. There is God's kingdom. It's an eternal kingdom. It's a spiritual kingdom. And it's a kingdom that can't be shaken by the things that shake our fragile little kingdoms on this earth. Elsewhere in the Bible, it's described as a kingdom that will never pass away. The inheritance that's stored for us there is guaranteed and will never perish, spoil or fade. And that is the kingdom, God's kingdom, where true, ultimate, lasting security can be found. Security that will last us through death, beyond death, forever, in fact. That is ultimate security. That is the security that is really worth having. Actually, that's the security that we really need. And that's why Jesus says, seek God's kingdom first. That's of the ultimate value, the utmost value, and the utmost importance. We get hold of it by getting hold of God's righteousness, as Jesus says, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. And how do we get God's righteousness? We can't enter his kingdom without it. Well, it's given to us freely, through the death and resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ. And if that's something that you're hearing for the first time, and you'd like to hear a little bit more about that, then please do visit our website, our Trinity Church Sunderland website. There's plenty of material there. You can find out what exactly it is Jesus is offering here and how we can get hold of it for ourselves. What he's offering is nothing less than true and lasting security, and not the paltry and illusory security that we think we can get in this life, but actually we can't. But bringing it back to the here and now, how does any of this help you and I with our anxieties about money? Perhaps the real possibility that we might not be able to pay our next rent payment. Well, I think the first thing to say on a practical level is that if you're a member of the Trinity Church family and you're in that position of really thinking you're going to be struggling financially in the coming weeks, please do speak to your growth group leaders or a member of the church leadership in the first place. That holds true at all times, not just in these unusual times. Please speak to us, and we'll talk to you, and we'll see what we can do to help. But secondly, where do we go with God when we're faced with these anxieties? Well, it's important to remember that God doesn't promise us health and wealth and prosperity in this life. Nowhere in the Bible does he promise us that if we become a Christian, put our trust in him, then all of those things will work out fine for us. What he does promise us is that he will get us through each day that he's called us to live in this world. He will get us through to the new creation, safe and sound. He will provide for us all that we need to get there day by day, and he won't push us beyond what we can bear. So we know that however difficult the next few weeks and months might be for us financially, we can know that God is with us, and that nothing that happens to us will be pushing us beyond what he knows we can bear. He will provide. Jesus pictures him in this passage as a God who cares intimately about every hair on our head, every detail of our lives. He'll provide just what we need. And of course we know as well that nothing can separate us from his love. So not, as Paul says, not nakedness, famine, none of these things, hardship. In fact, we're more than conquerors over all of these things through Jesus who loved us. He's provided for us the ultimate security that we need in his death and resurrection. And everything else God promises will fall into place. So I hope that's of some encouragement. And as I say, if there's anything you'd like to talk through with the church leadership, please do get in touch with us, and we'd love to help in any way that we can.